You've got actions that are doing the same types of things, like requesting external data, maybe handling errors, that kind of thing from an API. This is just a quick little trick I can show you to help reduce some duplication of code. So I'm just going to go into my app here and show you the store really quick. We have got a set of actions here to load jokes from Chuck Norris API. And there's basically two sets. There's load all and load category. Basically, these both handle requesting from an external API jokes, the Chuck Norris jokes. And so there's a service in the app here called the joke service, and there's two different methods. One's a get jokes, which is going to get all the jokes available, and there is a get jokes by category. So the get jokes by category will allow us to limit to just nerdy jokes, not all jokes. And then we have these actions that are dispatched to either load all or load category, and effects listening to handle the load all or category, and in which case we'll call get jokes if you say load all and dispatch a load all success on success of that call, or dispatch a load all failure if there's an error that happens. Same thing goes really for the load category, same type of scenario. We're going to make a call to the get jokes by category in our joke service, and if that is successful, we'll return a load category success and a load category failure. If we look over in our reducer, same type of thing going on here. On load all, we'll set our loading to true, clear our error. On success, we'll pop the jokes into the store. Same goes for the category. And so what we're gonna do real quick is I'm just gonna run the app, show you the functionality with ngServe. And then we will go back and quickly create what I'm going to term as a higher order create action, or higher order creators. All right, so now let's run our app. So here's our app, right? Chuck Norris jokes. So we can click the load all. That's dispatching our load all jokes action, and we have our jokes here. As you can see, some of them are nerdy and some of them are not nerdy. So now if we say nerdy, these should all deal with like programming jokes, technical type things. If we look at our Redux DevTools, we can see our different actions are being dispatched. Cool. So now if we flip back over, let's say we're doing this type of thing over and over again. This is a small scale, so it may not make sense for this scenario, but let's say we have 15 different types of actions we need to dispatch that are all really doing a very similar thing. And because we should create specific actions that kind of closely mirror our UI, these actions may start to feel like you're creating more actions that are really doing similar things. And so to help with some of that, we can create something called a higher order creator. And so this new way of creating actions in NgRx 8, to do an action, you basically are calling a factory function of create action. So let's just create a new one and let's see, what is the commonality? Well, we have two different scenarios where we need to handle a success response back from the API, and they both have a prop of jokes. So our load all success and our load category success. So how do we handle that? Well, let's create something called a joke success action. Okay? And what that's going to take into it is really just an action type. And then under the covers, it's going to call create action like this. And we'll pass the action type. And then it's going to have props that are going to be the same. So it's going to be the jokes of joke array and we'll close out parentheses there and save it. And so now we have created a higher order action creator. And so now we can come down here, and instead of having to duplicate this code in both scenarios, we can say, oh no, our load all success is really a joke success action. So we can say create joke success action just to be cleaner here. And then we would call that instead. And then we no longer need to pass our props. We can come down here to our load category success and then do the same thing. So now if we go back to our front end, we can refresh. We can see everything's working just the same. We're still getting our actions dispatched as we expect, but we've got a little bit less code duplication. Now let's just take it one step further, and we'll do one for the failure because they both have an error. We'll call it create joke failure action. And under the covers, that's just going to call create action. And it's going to return, and here we're going to have a props error of any, and we'll save it. So now we can come down here and turn this into a create joke failure action and a create joke failure action there. So a little bit less code. This kind of also allows us to do similar things to how in the past earlier versions of NgRx, when we would create classes for our actions. I have seen a lot of folks, especially those more familiar with object-oriented programming, they would create an abstract class that might have the same types of payload. A success payload might have an array of that entity that you're dealing with. And then they would create an action that extends that class and, for each specific one. So this is kind of following along the same footsteps, but it's a little more composable, a little less code needed for it, but yet still as powerful. And so now if we come back over here and we break our app to throw an error, let's just put a bad URL in. Now we get our error, HTTP failure response 404 not found. There it is. So there you go. Pretty cool, huh? That's just one quick little trick to create what I'm calling higher order action creators. This same type of concept could be followed with effects. You could have a create API effect, or maybe a create notification effect, or a create navigate effect, where you're doing the same types of things over and over, and so you would just wrap your create effect in another function, pass in what's necessary, and call it. In reality, you could probably follow the same concept with Producer. So, hope you enjoyed this quick little video. Feel free to leave any comments or suggestions, and I'm curious as to how you all will start utilizing this.